really excited today. We are starting some new segments discussing directors and their filmography. This month, since the new Star Wars film is coming out and a new documentary on AMC is coming out about science fiction, George Lucas is going to be a part of that. So we're talking about George Lucas.
Yeah.
So perfect timing. So we're going to talk about his early years, his films, and why we like the guy. And I'm sure once we get to Star Wars, we'll spark a lot of debate. Of course, This is normal. It's all good.
You know, I won't be surprised if I have to kill you two by the end of this.
Oh,
wow. That escalated quickly.
Yeah. Just before we even get started.
Man, you don't even know my opinions and thoughts on George Lucas, and it's already getting ugly.
George Lucas is born in 1944. He wants to study anthropology, but switches to film in college. He gets into USC. He is on my top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
Most inspirational director. Grew up in Modesto. He's really changed the industry in innovative ways.
Yeah,
he kind of split apart from the industry in the 70s to make his own works, and he's really innovated the technology. He's the rebel of directors. He's the guy that wanted his vision across, and he would go to any ends to do it. Star Wars 1977 made him famous. When he was doing Empire Strikes Back, I think one of the best encounters was with a producer. A producer was like, I want these new ideas, I'm changing everything, and you can't do anything about it, Lucas, because I have the money. And Lucas says, well, technically you don't have the money, you're just getting money from people, and I should make the ideas because I'm the creator, and we'll do this. I'll fund the movies, and you don't have to do it. This is a big deal back in the day because directors didn't say that to producers. They didn't say, I'm putting my money in, and I'm doing it my way. So he was the guy that did it. He's a rebel. All of his protagonists are rebels in their own way, trying to fight against oppression. So a lot of parallels there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit about George Lucas. His early work has defined his later work.
Mm-hmm.
So episode 1,
it wasn't just his midichlorians that were high.
Well, that was the thing.
Blood alcohol level was high too.
Is that movie had to establish who the Jedi were and the Force, and I felt like it did a poor job of doing that. And then the Force, the ideology of the Force, and the fact that I always question myself, like, why did they have the midichlorians? Like they could have just made something else up.
They could have easily said, "Oh, I sense the boy's latent Force potential is extreme," or something like that.
And they could have had, because Anakin's mother is pretty much almost the exposition, but she should have been like, well, what is a Jedi and what does a Jedi do? And every time we hear about Jedi, it's a myth, but here we are still slaves. Right. That would have been an interesting dynamic. And then Qui-Gon could have explained, this is what the Jedi are about. We're about peace.
Because I actually think that episode 4, Obi-Wan actually did a better job explaining it in episode 4 than anybody did in episode 1.
And Obi-Wan is just such a side character until the end of the movie. And you don't even know who the main character is in episode 1. Is it Qui-Gon? Is it Obi-Wan? Is it Anakin?
Right.
It can't be Anakin because we're introduced to him in like middle of Act 2.
Right.
It can't be Obi-Wan because he doesn't really change and doesn't talk much. So it has to be Qui-Gon. So, but then the whole storylines are supposed to follow the Skywalkers. So it's a very strange structure.
It's a really strange conundrum. And I've heard, like, I told Mr. B this. I think the worst part of the prequels are the movies themselves.
I don't remember his name, but basically the Middle Eastern stereotype guy.
Are you talking about Watto?
Watto, thank you.
He's supposed to be Jewish, right?
Middle Eastern Jewish. I don't know. It's just offensive.
It's horrendously offensive.
It's really. And the thing was, when I saw it in the theater, it didn't really. I was so distracted by Jar Jar. That it wasn't until I watched the movie later on disc that I realized. Wow, this is really offensive. Like, this is really bad.
And then there's also the Trade Federation guys, the Namodians.
Yeah,
they're an Asian
They're Asians, yes, exactly. That was the other thing.
George Lucas was so bad with the stereotypes in episode 1.
My wife had not seen episode 1 until we watched it at home, and the first thing she sees, she's like, why are they Asian? And really bad Asian, like, stereotypes. It's like, horrible, you know. And I was like, well, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait till Watto. So,
Watto.
I think there was a lot of unnecessary fat that could have been trimmed off of.
I agree with you there.
And then, of course, no Jar Jar. Just
get rid of it.
Jar Jar. Like you mentioned earlier, Jason, the banter, the witty banter is what is entertaining. We don't need bad comic relief in the form of Jar Jar.
They took the wrong people on Tatooine. They took Padme, Qui-Gon, and Jar Jar. Those are the worst people on that ship. that could have made it to the test. They should have taken someone more entertaining, like a pilot who's more extroverted, or Obi-Wan, because that makes sense, because it's a master and Padawan.
Honestly, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, I would have loved to see banter between them in the same sort
or maybe
of
arguing. Maybe they're like arguing and it's funny, but they don't get any of that. It's like, all right, Obi-Wan, you stay here. I'm going to take the least important people. Let me get R2 over here and have him roll around in the sand.
What would you guys say is your favorite part of episode 1?
Oh, this is Darth Maul, obviously.
The final battle.
Darth
Maul.
Like, there's 2 answers to the question. It's either the final battle or pod racing.
I like pod racing because it didn't keep cutting back and forth with the action, and I didn't like that. I always never liked how at the end of every Star Wars film they have to always cut back between all these characters doing things.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. It was like one of those things where, like, get back to the Darth Maul moment. We don't need to see Jar Jar. That's not important.
We don't need Jar Jar. Get him out of here.
The Starfighter, I don't know.
Pre-Death Star.
Pre-Death Star, there you go. That's a more of an emotional moment. So maybe that should have been less action because the Darth Maul is already the action part.
Yeah.
Maybe that one should have been more dramatic. And then maybe the Jar Jar thing, could have cut that out. Give Jar Jar the most screen time.
Just give Jar Jar the most.
Have him fight.
Have Darth Maul meet Jar Jar for just 2 seconds, and then just be done.
And they just look at each other, and Jar Jar just keeps talking, and Darth Maul is just like not having it. So episode 2 focuses more on the romantic parts. Anakin is actually the main character. In episode 1, we didn't know who the main character is.
We had no idea who he was.
Now he is the main character.
But yeah, it's I don't know, that the movie just felt firmly forgettable for me. I think there was some scenes that were interesting, like the big fight on Geonosis, but from there just wasn't a lot that was really memorable.
I remember something vividly, and I told you guys this off the air last week, and you wanted me to share this story.
Yeah,
because
you can let's share that, and we can take a quick break.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're running low on time,
and I think it actually works well when we're talking about the main character. It was miscast. I thought. I thought that here they got the actor Hayden Christensen, who was supposed to be the next big thing, and I thought he did a horrible job. First of all, and number 2, I don't think they really did justice to Anakin's character, and he is the main character. And so I was telling the story last week to Jason and Mr. B that sitting in the theater watching it, and I'm kind of groaning at this like love scene with Anakin and Padme, and they're rolling around in the fields, and it's just like really bad. And he gives this very cheesy speech, and where he's going to about how much he loved her from the first time he saw her, and I'll do anything for you. I'll do anything you ask. And then like there was this pause, and I yelled out in the theater, "Take some acting lessons!" And like the entire theater at the Metreon, this is like opening night, everyone starts cheering. Which that's how much like most of the time you yell out something in the theater, people are going to tell you to shut up and sit down. But everyone started cheering. So
everyone agreed with you.
Yeah,
everyone agreed with me because he was just so bad, and that's really. Again, we're talking about how forgettable the movie is, but I think for me the bigger crime is that they didn't really. Here you got this main character of the trilogy to set up this. I mean, he's a integral part of the entire story of Star Wars, and they just kind of. I felt like they didn't really flesh it out much, and I think they were hoping possibly that the star power of Hayden Christensen, the next big thing, he's going to come through.
I think the main problem, a lot of people had a problem with, and even I did until I changed my philosophy of how I looked at it. They thought the romance between Anakin and Padme was very awkward.
Yes.
And they said, "Oh, this was the worst part of the movie because their love story is so weird." But years later, kind of analyzing it again, I actually thought it was very fitting because Jedi aren't supposed to fall in love. So he's never talked to a woman before. So he's really awkward, and she's kind of the same way. She's never talked to a guy before, and she's this queen. So the awkwardness worked. I think the way the delivery of some of the lines might have not worked in certain ways, but I do like in episode 2, he's kind of showing her the Force and kind of playing with the fruit and whatnot.
Right, that was cute.
Directly contrasts what happens in episode 3 when she falls down and she pretty much dies when he uses the Force. So it's interesting to see he uses the Force to make things look beautiful, but then contrasting.
What's that? I did notice a little comment on here. I like this comment. Episode 2 was like Alien C-SPAN.
Wow.
You know what?
Alien
Eric
C-SPAN.
Young. We know you come in here, so you're part of the department. You're not wrong, man. I agree with you there.
How would you change episode 2 before we jump into 3?
I think, I'm sticking with you guys on those. Get some, make the transition smoother and have Anakin grow more as a character. I think, kill Dooku at the very end there. That would have been the coolest little, would have been, and maybe give a tease of Anakin.
And then people would know who Anakin was in the next movie. Because when you see episode 3, you're like, all right, Anakin is still progressing to the dark side, when he should have all right, we already know he's kind of there, so now we're on set with this guy, this character. Didn't the end of the movie he has a robotic arm like Luke? They tried to
they paralleled
that. Yeah. And then it was just the wedding at the end. That was a small wedding. That was how it ended. Mm-hmm. So it ended on a light note. Which it's kind of tonally wrong.
It's very tonally wrong for the middle Star Wars movie, you know? Episode 5 ended with, what are we going to do against Vader? Luke just got his arm chopped off.
How do we get Han back? Are we going to get Han back?
How do we get Han back? All that
But then
stuff.
3PO and R2 are at the wedding, but they never say anything to any of my other characters about the wedding.
Yeah.
These two actually got married. Why doesn't anyone know about this?
Yeah, you know what?
It's a weird thought.
I never thought about that.
The robots know about their marriage.
That does remind me, though, are you guys familiar with Ki-Adi-Mundi?
He's one of the. He has the forehead, right?
He's got the really long head. Yeah.
So that's that guy's name. Okay.
There's a fun little fact.
They all have weird names like that.
Yeah, fun little fact before we go on a break here. He was actually one of the only Jedi allowed to marry and have children.
What?
Yes.
I thought the Jedi.
I didn't know this.
Jedi are supposed to be celibate. Yeah. Yes. Here's why. Because
that's why his neck is long.
His species, guys with long necks. Yeah.
His species disproportionately has a very small amount of males.
Oh.
So they had to do that in order to keep his species going.
That's so weird.
Yeah, I know, right?
Now I'm imagining this guy
There's an image. Thank you for that.
This show's supposed to be kid friendly. Come on.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But the character looks like this. He's the strange looking alien in the movie. So
yeah. I mean,
how's that
some
gonna
really
work?
strange ones. We got Yariel Poof, who's just got this really long neck.
How do you know all these names? You know all the names of the
I know a lot of the extra names. I know a lot of the extra characters.
That's what's fun about the Star Wars universe. Anytime there's a small character, they actually have a bigger role in other
it's one of the cool things.
It's kind of cool.
But we're going to be taking another break here on KWDC 93.5 LPFM. Going to be coming back with more movie talks, and may the 4th be with you.